Alright, continuing my thought process or train of thought from the last video, the current economic situation, specifically the country's deficit, is kind of like Lend-Lease from the Second World War, like I said, wherein FDR gave the Allies, specifically Britain, or most specifically Britain, all kinds of hardware, weapons, tanks, cannons, battleships. And the idea behind it was, like I said in the last video or alluded to, you don't, if your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't stop to argue how much you're going to rent out your hose and water to him for. You give him the hose and access to the water, and you worry about the price later. Once the house fire is put out. Our current debt levels, unfortunately, are byproduct of a very similar thought process, insofar as we need to address the problems now and worry about the ramifications later. Those ramifications will come back, but we have to, at least for now, kick the can down the road and address the immediate and imminent concerns in our current day's instances: COVID, unemployment, shutting down the economy. So we have to deal with the problems that we face now, and then worry about the problems we face later. We worry about tomorrow. Unfortunately, that is the reality of our current situation. We just have to deal with it for now. You have to get through today in order to get to tomorrow, or even 6 months from now, or next year. So we deal with today, tomorrow. A little bit of folksy wisdom, I guess. So yeah, outside of that, I hope everyone has a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Hopefully you are not traveling. If you are, please be very, very careful. I was watching Shep Smith on CNBC last night, and depending on your region, the positivity rates are crazy. In the Northeast, our average positivity rate is about 7%. I believe in the South, it is around 11%. And in the Midwest, Heartland, the positivity rate is about 22%. And then out west, the positivity rate average is about 23%. That's high. Apparently, in states like Iowa, the positivity rate is much closer to that of 50%. That's crazy. That's crazy. And Iowa's got more cornfields than people, from what I understand. Wyoming, too. So that is alarming. No matter what region you are in, please be careful. Please don't infect your parents or grandparents or older uncles or aunts or anyone that might be at risk. We don't need any more Americans, or anyone for that matter, to die from this virus. Even if you don't fully believe in everything you're hearing, even if you think that it is being blown out of proportion, you are entitled to your opinion, but please still just wear a mask and be careful. I know there's plenty of people that think that masks don't mean anything, but the science says otherwise. Again, even if you think that it's being blown out of proportion, not everyone feels that way. So please be respectful of people that are worried for not just their own lives, but the lives of their friends and family. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? The vaccines are coming. Pfizer and Moderna will probably be approved for emergency use authorization before the end of the year. Pfizer has plans to do a dry run for delivering their vaccine because it requires such crazy low temperatures to transport it and store it. They're doing dry runs, and they are planning on having vaccines delivered pretty much same day, or certainly within the first 24 hours of being approved for emergency use authorization. I think they might actually be trying to deliver some doses now, or well, soon, pending emergency use authorization, meaning some vaccine dosages might actually be in hospitals ready for distribution at the moment the FDA approves their vaccine for emergency use authorization. Moderna has a deal with the EU. They're working on shipping some doses there. That's fine. We can't just keep them all to ourselves because who are we going to do business with if everybody else is still shut down or, God forbid, still dying? Look, I 100% agree and believe in America first. We have to look out for our own interests first, but that does not mean we just let everyone else struggle and die. Because, again, like I just said, if we're all that's left, who is there to do business with? Who is there to export things to? Who is there to import things from? We can't just do business with ourselves. So, although I do believe in America first, I do also believe that our interests involve the well-being of others. That may be an unpopular opinion. I'm not really sure. I really don't care. It's objectively true. We can't just let everybody else suffer while we hoard everything, because that's not good business. It's not being a good world partner. It doesn't make sense. So, but we'll get through it. We will get through it. I've been saying it ever since March. I did not think it was going to be our extinction event. And to the extent that certain parties have come together to really expedite this whole thing safely, presumably safely, certainly appears as though it's been done relatively safely, at least the production of the vaccines and the testing of the vaccines. Look, it's nice to see people come together for a change amidst all the divisiveness of our current socio-political economic climates. It's nice to see people come together and work together to make things happen, positive things happen. A lot of people, certainly in the Democratic Party, the pharmaceutical companies are widely maligned. Hopefully, big pharma and biotech, the industry making the strides that they have for this vaccine in such a short amount of time, and the fact that they're basically going to give a lot of this stuff away at cost, hopefully that will soothe some ruffled Democrat feathers. And I'm a Democrat, but let's be real, the Democrats very often, more often than not, campaign on the soapbox of big pharma is bad. Look, big pharma makes a lot of money, sure. Could they make less money but still make money? Sure. But we literally, our lives literally depend on these companies. And it's not cheap to R&D the things that they do. And it's not cheap to be in that space in the first place. I mean, just looking on the micro levels, the amount of schooling and education you need to be able to work in and for and lead and run some of these companies. I mean, people are spending a quarter, if not $500,000 on education just to be involved in companies like this. You know, it's same problem we have with the medical field at large. Yeah, sure, doctors are expensive. Going to the doctor is expensive. Going to the hospital is expensive. But think about the overheads. I mean, think about how much money these people have spent on schooling just to be able to take care of you. Um, I mean, yeah. Doctors don't make money until they finish residency, and even after they finish residency, they very often do not make money for quite some time. And even when they do, they're paying down all their medical school bills, all their student loans. So yeah, sure, some of these doctors are making multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but think about how much money they have out in student loans. And that's not to say they're the only people with student loans. Most people have student loans, but if you're taking out almost $250,000 for student loans so you can be an art history major, I mean, I think you should rethink that. If you're taking out $100,000, $250,000 for student loans to be a theater major, I think you might want to rethink that. Um, when I was in college, there was a girl who took out $250,000 just for undergrad, and she wanted to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I can't remember which, but that involves an inordinate amount of schooling and therefore money for schooling. And she took out $250,000 for undergrad. For undergrad in a field which you at the very least need a master's degree. So we're talking at the end of the day, she probably ended up taking out $500,000 in student loans. She's going to be paying that off for the rest of her fucking life. So, make good, sound, fiscal, financial decisions for yourself and for your future. That's not to say don't strive for greatness or self-betterment, but, have a realistic approach to things. And certainly don't, hopefully most people are pretty thankful for medical staff in the medical field right now. And they aren't harping on, look, a lot of the stuff that we've been getting during COVID has been free thanks to what little the government has been able to do together. If you go to get a COVID test, most times you're not paying for it. You shouldn't be paying for it. There are plenty of urgent care facilities that are just taking in people for COVID tests. You're in, you're out. You provide your insurance, and it gets billed to insurance. There's no out-of-pocket expense for you. If you don't have insurance, yes, of course, that's problematic. If you don't have insurance, you should really be on Obamacare, despite the fact that many, many people hate Obamacare. It is literally keeping millions of people, millions of Americans alive. Is it a perfect system? No, absolutely not. There are many drawbacks to Obamacare. There are many drawbacks to the private healthcare system. There are many drawbacks to anything and everything you could reasonably think of. Nothing is a perfect system. The whole point of everything really is that they're all works in progress. So, anyway, I'm rambling. Just trying to get to the end of this video. Yeah, anyway, we'll go back to happier things like Thanksgiving. Let's all be thankful that those of us that are still alive are still alive. Let's be thankful that those of us that still have jobs have jobs. Look, 2020 has been a shit, awful, terrible year, but I think in the grand scheme of things, we as Americans are still better off than most of the rest of the world. Even with the current political climate, COVID, everything else, I genuinely believe that we as Americans are better off than most of the rest of the world. And it's hard to argue with that. It really is hard to argue with that. That's how I feel. That's how I've always felt. Sure, there have been times I've been kind of embarrassed to be an American. Some of those instances very recently. But I still think we're better off than just about everybody else. That doesn't mean I think we're better than everybody else. Distinction there. I think we are better off than just about everybody else. our our lockdowns and curfews seem to be a little bit easier than some of the other ones that we're seeing in the rest of the world. Um, I think that this is the next 30 days are going to be the most trying of the year, though, between Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's. Um, Trying to limit the spread of the virus for the next month or so is going to be the tallest order that we're going to have. January could be brutal as a result in terms of infections and hospitalizations and deaths, God forbid. But I think once we get over these humps, we'll be in a pretty good way, because then the vaccine will really start getting churned out and we can get back on track to a comparatively normal life. So home stretch, everybody. Home stretch. Home stretch. And then in January, I think hockey comes back, so that'll be good. I really am missing my hockey right now, even though the Rangers are going to be fucking terrible. Sorry to see Henrik Lundqvist go to Washington, of all places. But man deserves to win a cup, and if he can win a cup with Washington, even though I hate Washington, um, respect and admire Henrik Lundqvist, so I would rather see him get a cup somewhere than not. Again, even if it's that's with the Capitals. I can't fucking wait for hockey to come back. And I also can't wait for Friday, next episode of Mandalorian. I think the next episode is written and directed by Filoni himself, presumably going to have Ahsoka Tano in it. So that's going to be orgasmic, hopefully. Very much looking forward to that. So far, I'm very, very happy with this season of Mandalorian. Okay, until next time.